With you, Madam Alice Gekonde. What inspired this great idea of coming up with the Nakuru, with the Stanbic Bank Nakuru City Marathon?
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm told that the race has just been flagged off. That is the 21 kilometers, and it's ongoing right now. And we can speak to it as it goes on, Madam.
Hello, good morning. This is Nakuru County, the county of unlimited opportunities. Nakuru City County Marathon was half marathon, was initiated when we look at Nakuru County, when we look at the athletes in Nakuru County, especially the long races, we've been doing very well. They just finished the Under-20 World Athletics Championship. Out of the 8 gold medalists that we were able to get as a country, 2 of them were coming from Nakuru, Kerenget. And also Nakuru has been just given a city status. So we are looking for an event that is really talking to the people, talking to the young people. And also as one of the activities that we were going to celebrate Nakuru as a city, we thought sports is the right thing and athletics was the right thing because you have superstars from Nakuru. Thank you.
That's beautiful. And Mr. Martin Keno, you have been engaged in this activity, planning for this race. You told me that you planned for this race in quite a short time. And I believe as a former athlete, you put into perspective all the things, including the course. So I'd like to hear a little bit about the course.
Thank you. Good morning. The course for the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon is a unique course. We have for the 21 kilometers. We have a course that showcases the city, in the lower neighborhoods of Nakuru and winding up to Milimani in the upper neighborhoods of Nakuru. It gives the runners and the viewers and fans a chance to see the scenic beauty of Nakuru City. So we wanted to capture that in this particular event, a race and a route that showcases the beauty of the city. It is a challenging course. It has a mix of flat, considerable uphills and downhills. So the runners will face a difficult course, but they'll appreciate this course as one of the most scenic ones here in Kenya.
Yeah, that's good. And Madam Esther, we have seen Stanbic Bank has been in the forefront in terms of taking care of the athletes. And one of your brand ambassadors is the world marathon record holder, Brigid Kosgei, and I believe she'll be participating today in the 10-kilometer race. So what else do you have for the athletes in terms maybe of late we have been having cases of athletes having financial challenges, especially when they retire. So what do you have in store for them?
Okay. Thank you very much and good morning everyone. I think for Stanbic Bank, what really drives what we do and where we invest is really being big about driving Kenya's growth. And if you think about athletes, they really bring the pride for Kenya. And our understanding of where sports and where we need to start is really when they are young. And that's something the county is also very passionate about. They've put up a high altitude training center in Kerenget. And if you look at sports and how a lot of athletes succeed, it's because of starting early and doing a lot of practice when they're still really young. That's the opportunity we want to bring. When we've done rugby in the past, that was the same thing that drove us to say, how do we then support a league to ensure that they're scouted? Other corporates actually can come in and notice them. But back to the core of what we do and who we are as a bank, we are really keen on empowering them to be able to understand how to run their money better. We do have a program that we run at the bank, financial fitness training that we do. Because if you look at this, and a lot of them, they make their money, it seems easy, it's not easy, there's a lot of work that they put in. But a lot of them then invest in a very linear way, in real estate. We are Kenyans, we are African, property is really big. But you must diversify your investments. So we run this program for them, and we ran for Bridget to say, how do you look at your wealth? How do you look at your wealth? When we've got 4 quadrants that we look at how do you make your money. So if you're an athlete, we actually put you in the sport. So you're only running. What else could you be doing? Again, what is the what's the age gap that you're going to have, the window that you have to make your money as an athlete, so that you also understand I need to have other multiple income streams. So instead of putting all my money in just real estate, what else can generate for me, more income? So look at that piece. Then you're alive, you're living, you're spending money. How are you doing that? What do you need to be able to live a certain way, or where should your level of living then be from there? Then we look at saving and investment. So beyond just saving in Kenya, can we help them do some offshore investments? Because that's really good for them. They also are able to travel a lot abroad, so that's the space they should be in terms of if we're thinking about investments. And for us, the last quadrant is really, really critical. It looks at a legacy. So as an athlete, you're the key person. How do you leave behind what you've made? So we help you to start to understand that space and see, what do I need to put in place now? Is it trust and putting my will together? So those are conversations we have with them. And after this particular race, we intend to actually run that course for all the winners. We will have about 90 winners, given that we are rewarding the top 15 in each single race, both men and women.
I'll come back to you to expound on that. And back to you, Madam Sports Director. Nakuru is one of the counties that is endowed to have a national park within its coast, and we also have a lot of athletes coming from this region. Talking of the likes of Faith Kipyegon, who comes from Keringet, the two-time world 1500 meters champion. Maybe how is the county looking to merge these two in terms of sports tourism?
Okay, thank you. Nakuru as a county of unlimited opportunities, we are looking at the sports tourism, and we're matching the two together.
Just a moment. Martin, I'll come back to you. Martin, you are a former athlete, and the kind of prize money you have put in this race is quite lucrative, and it might maybe inspire some to try and cheat. And the cases of doping has been on the rise in Kenya. Maybe what are some of the things that you are putting in place to ensure that whoever wins fairly?
Yes, the prize money that we set aside for this particular event is quite unique because it goes 15 deep, and of course it will attract a considerable number of runners who want to come and get that prize. So of course we anticipate that there will be some who will want to cut corners, doping, but we have in place, we brought on board ADAC, Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, to come and conduct tests. So all the winners, the top 3 winners, will have to undergo doping tests before they are awarded any prize money for that. So we have that measure taken care of.
Okay. And please kindly hand over the mic to Madam who have been. So back to the sports tourism issue. What are some of the issues the county is putting in place, measures the county is putting in place rather to ensure that we merge athletics and sports?
Athletics is part of sports, so we've already merged it. It's within the same directorate, but we're doing sports also as a Nakuru as a tourism destination because of the hospitality industry. We have the park and we also have the other features, the sports, and also looking at the sports and the talent that Nakuru has in sports, especially in rugby, in football. We are upgrading the infrastructure in sports. We are upgrading the Afra Stadium into international standards. We are doing the athletics field. We are doing the football play. We are doing the other facilities. We are also doing the changing rooms and all the other facilities that are associated with a stadium of standard. And another major facility we are doing that also we are looking at the talent that we have is the Keringet high altitude training. We are also doing everything that would assist the athletes to be able to train and also attract others from other countries and from within other counties within the country. And we're also looking at other issues like nurturing talent in all aspects of life. We're looking at the Deaf Olympics, Like they just finished the Africa football games. Nakuru, the majority of the girls team and the men team that were in those groups, most of them were coming from Nakuru. So we have really invested a lot in sports. In every financial year, we have about 27 million that we use to buy assorted sports equipment to brand all the athletes within the county, among other things.
Yeah, well, that's good. And back to you, Madam Esther. As a bank, maybe do you have a special package for the athletes, maybe like a bank account, maybe to help the athletes save for their future?
So we do have specialized accounts for women athletes because we do have DADA. DADA is our women banking proposition, which really is an acronym that means Dare to Aspire, Dare to Achieve. But largely what we then do is have a focused approach around the athletes that we're going to bank. And that's why I say this financial fitness training is really, really critical for us because we help them understand their wealth holistically. Because at the end of the day, they are a person and they are a business. They're two in one. So we do have, even for male athletes, we do have the specialized focus and products that we're going to be able to sell to them. But especially for the women athletes, and that's why Bridget then was a really key ambassador for us. The data proposition was really what we're able to drive for them because it helps understand a woman holistically and bank her throughout her life stage. And it's really something that we built as a bank based on research, going down and understanding the women, the challenges they face, and even that's just what they're built of, you know, the grit that comes with the woman. And we see that as well and in the field of sports. Bridget actually won her title after having twins, you know. The same is for Faith. So there's something about women, and for us it's a special focus that we give for women.
Yeah, that's good. And from here, for now, we call it a wrap. And speaking to maybe the last one to you, Nani, to you, Martin. You are a former athlete, and my editor, Elias Makori, was telling me that in most major races, there is normally rain before it starts, and maybe this is a blessing to this one.
Yes, indeed, it's a blessing to
just 1 minute.
The runners because the cooler weather, on today makes it easier for runners to run well. So it's actually welcome for the elite runners because to enable them to run faster. It's easier to run in cooler weather than warmer weather in long distance races. So today we have a blessing for the inaugural Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon.
Yeah, thank you so much. And from here in the Rift Valley Sports Club, we call it a wrap and we take you to Nairobi, where we are joined by our commentators. That is the former Olympic champion Wilfred Bungei and Francis Mutegi, which will be taking us through this race. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Keter, and your panel there. Very insightful discussions, and of course, I'm sure we've gotten a lot of insights as to what exactly this championship is all about. It's the first edition of Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon. It is a half a marathon race that is 21 kilometers. That is the main event. Of course, we've got 10 kilometers race and the 5 kilometers family race, and that is a more of a fun race. And of course, this is also a celebration of the city's status acquisition, which President Uhuru Kenyatta is at any time within the next few months expected to officially pronounce. And as you can imagine, that is going to be a huge milestone for this city of Nakuru when it is fully fledged as a city. And as things stand, they are doing pretty well in virtually every aspect to meet that criteria, and the race is on. Of course, it has been fairly about 10 minutes since they kicked off. With me here, Wilfred Bungei, former Olympic champion, 800 meters. You're welcome. I think this is a great opportunity for athletes, another occasion that Kenyan talent can be showcased, and more so in the Central Rift region, conscious that majority of times we go to the North Rift region, and this of course creates another chance also for the people in between Eldoret and Nairobi, because those have been the key cities of national marathon events.
Well, Francis, thank you so much, for having me here, and especially to grace this occasion for for the, as you said, the first edition of the Nakuru Stanbic Marathon. For us athletes, it means a lot, and especially that what we have been looking for, is to have more local races, happening in Kenya, because we have realized that so many Kenyans, as you just rightly said, that most of the races, that we have is outside the country, and we have immense talent in this country, whereby we feel that we should be able to give opportunity to every athlete. And something that is very important, especially for Nakuru Marathon, Francis, is that it's bringing the athletics outside the North Rift that is known, for so many athletes are coming from there. And having these athletes, competing in Nakuru, definitely, just as we heard from the CEC for sports, saying that, Nakuru, we have talents, especially from Keringet area. So therefore, it's going to tap a lot of talents from that region. And I think something very important for us to mention is that when you have marathons going on in Kenya, it does help so many athletes that have been looking forward to compete internationally, because this way, the only way agents identify these talents, Francis, is by having these athletes compete. Because otherwise, you don't get the chance to be able to go out of the country. And something very important, I think, for us is that having big athletes, gracing this occasion, it means a lot for the race organizers as well.
Oh, okay, but I want to believe such events obviously have to be licensed and probably given technical support by the National Federation, that is Athletics Kenya, and of course the government of the county, led by the county governor Lee Kinyanjui, has put in enough, as the county CEC for sports has said. But there's also the aspect of the role that the Athletics Kenya is supposed to play in reference to preparing these athletes' routes and confirming the measurements of the distances and so on, and of course the terrain, to ensure that athletes are safe.
Well, actually, I think that is a very important question, because people should be able to understand, especially our viewers and the people who love athletics, they should be able to understand that this race has been organized in the most international standard way of doing marathon. So of course, we know this is an half marathon. First and foremost, they must get a license from Athletics Kenya. Number two, Athletics Kenya are the ones, and the technical committee are the ones to be able to do the measurement, for the distance, because it has to be exact 21 kilometers, I think 21.1 something there, and therefore they must be able to do. Of course, you mentioned about the course. Sometimes, we have these courses that are a little bit difficult, and I think based on Martin Kano's sentiments there, he said that, what we wanted to do, apart from the race itself, we wanted to showcase the beauty of Nakuru, and that is why they have done mapping of the route, to be able to touch all the way to almost to the leg, the lower part. Yeah. Then it goes to the upper side. Yes. It means it is going to be an uphill for the athletes. What I think we are going to notice here is that, number one, we are not going to have very fast races, based on the fact that, the terrain itself, is not that very flat, because we know very well that most of the races that we normally have, it's always very flat. So I think the fact that you mentioned, especially, when we have these athletes, going to compete there, having the county government, having the Stanbic, and I think we have got to commend, the Stanbic for being able, for being able to sponsor the event, because myself, I've always advocated that, the corporates should be able to chip in, especially for these races, so that we can be able to discover the talent. Yeah, actually, I understand besides Stanbic Bank, there is also geothermal power production plant, which is also based in Nakuru County. And you remember some years back, there was geothermal half marathon that was running around the hills of that region where the geothermal power stations are based. And I want to believe this is the energizing of the geothermal race back then, but there is the aspect of preparedness for such an event as an athlete. There is the aspect of endurance, there is the aspect of your form, there is the aspect of your fitness, and of course discipline. These are key elements of any athlete if you are to compete in such an international kind of stature event, and so come up with results. Yeah, sure, because if you look at these athletes, and I think especially for our viewers, if they look at this group of athletes who are competing here, you can tell that they are very good athletes. when you get these athletes being able to compete there, and remember that the season is not this is not a season for marathon. It ended I think the beginning
around
of
September.
this, around September, October, though we have had some few races in October.
Yes.
So to get these athletes that are still being able to run the way we see them running here, it means they have been able to prepare for a very long time. Remember that we have had corona, which has affected so many athletes, but for them at least they are still being able to compete, and especially with the speed that we look at them running. Now you mentioned the sponsors. You mentioned that before we have had these races. What I think we should be looking at in this country is that whenever we have any sponsor, they should be able to plan a long term, so that if we have a race like Nakuru now, which is taken up by county government, Stanbic, Thermal, and many other sponsors that I believe we should be able to have contributed, that we may be able to understand who these guys are.
Yeah.
They should have a plan over a very long time. Let's say, for example, if they are going to have like a 10-year plan or 5-year plan, the race organizers, what they are supposed to do themselves is, if they know that they have these sponsors to a certain period of time, before the elapse of that period, they should be in a position to make a decision and say that, the next time we must have other sponsors that are coming in, so that we have a continuation and we have a tradition. And I think, when we look at the race itself right now, I think something worth mentioning, Francis, is that you see there is a lot of stretch in these athletes. We already being able to see that the race has begun very fast.
Yes. Because
by the time that you are finding athletes, stretching that much,
and the front runners seem to be already stretching out of the rest of the team.
Yep.
It's an indication that people are very determined and prepared, like you said, in terms of their practice and readiness for this event, looking at the pace at which they are running, and of course also conscious that the weather started with a bit of a drizzle and probably very wet overnight. The surface is always very tricky when you are running as an athlete. How do you handle such weather conditions when you are running in such a very long distance race?
Well, thank you. I think that's something very important, actually, especially for an athlete. The weather always plays a very major role. However, we have got to understand that the marathons, the half marathon, they need cooler weather conditions. Okay. Of course, again, when it rains, and especially being in not so low altitude, it does affect. It will affect the time. It will probably, what we should be able to understand is definitely it will affect the times. And I think the fact that it is not raining right now, especially as they compete, so that means it's going to be very good.
Yes.
I think, as we mentioned again, because if you look at right now, I think they are crossing the Nakuru Nairobi highway.
Yes.
Probably going to the upper hillside of Nakuru.
Yes.
And I think this is where we should be able to understand that this is where the cup will be able to happen, especially for the athletes who are very ready. Right now they must be in a better position for them to be able to win the race, because what happens in any competition is the main athletes always tries as much as they can to be able to break away from the rest of the group. Because if you look at that distance, especially from those who are behind and this distance, it looks like they have given them about 800 meters apart, which means
it's slightly under 20 minutes since they kicked off, and I want to think probably endurance and of course speed is very important in a marathon as well, but that sustainability in the race, bearing in mind it's not a short distance. I know you did the 800 meters and you did pretty well. I'm just wondering, with your own reasoning, how much does the wet surface affect the runner, conscious that for you speed is very important because it's a 2-lap race?
Well, I believe that the race organizers was able to make sure that every surface that these guys are going to run should be free from any problems that the athletes can encounter, because the wet conditions especially if you go to places maybe where there's some rocky and all that, the chances of you getting injured is very high. So I believe and I know that I trust the race organizers, to be able to do very well. I think this should be Beatrice Chebet, and I think she's doing very well.
Yeah,
I believe
Chebet is one of the senior athletes that are in the event, alongside Geoffrey Kirui and of course Daniel Simiyu. We've got also Bridget Kosgei and Mercy Cherono. Mercy Cherono will be remembered majorly for the 5,000 meters where she won a silver medal, and I think that is a huge profile caliber of athletes for the event to get for their first edition of the championship.
Yeah, actually, Francis, having these athletes to compete, it gives a lot of credibility to this race. It gives the standard, that the international organizers are always looking at. When you are talking about Nakuru City Marathon or Nakuru half, Stanbic Nakuru City half marathon, for example, because this is not a full marathon, and when you have big athletes, like Beatrice, I can tell you that the next time most of the big athletes will be able to do. Remember that they have already mentioned the prizes money that they are going to have there.
$500,000 shillings for the winner, and I see the gentleman who is leading the pack is already quite some distance away after 21 minutes of the race, and it's a clear indication that he is determined to pull off and go as far away from the competitors as much as possible. Of course, also indications that you've got all these monitoring team members, both cyclists and motorists as well as the ambulances, is an indication of how important and well profiled this event is, to give it an international stature. And I just want to understand from your own reasoning, what is the possibility that if a record is to be broken in the 21-kilometer race in this championship today, it will be registered by the World Athletics body?
Definitely it will, because remember that, as I said before, before the Athletics Kenya licensed any competition, they have got to make sure that the route has been mapped. It is exact to the international level. If someone breaks a world record, and I think you have brought a very interesting story here, but that if, for example, someone breaks a world record, there is a prize money for a world record. I don't know, if the organizers, for example, are prepared, because we all know very well that, anyone who breaks a world record should be going home with not less than 100,000 USD. Of course, every race organizers, put their own, but there is a standard that has been set by IAAF, yes, by the World Athletics, to make sure that if any athlete breaks a world record, this is the time that they are supposed to do. And I believe that when you look at actually the race, you see when we were talking about the way it has been marked. Remember that when you go uphill, there is a time that you will have to come downhill, yes, and definitely it compensates the time that you are able to lose maybe when you are climbing the hill. So there is a high chance that because I think earlier on we were discussing that it may affect the time, it may be very slow, but now realizing what the route looks like, I still believe we should have a very good time. And I believe this is Dan Simiyu, who is a very good athlete. He's debuting in the marathon, because he has not been actually doing the marathons. I think he has been in the 10,000 meters for quite some time. And I think for these athletes it means a lot, especially when they do half marathon, because we have looked at Francis that most of these athletes, those who are running 5,000, look at Eliud Kipchoge. Yeah. He was doing 5,000, moved to 10,000, then moved to marathon. Yeah. So for Simiyu, I believe that this is the beginning, and at the end of the day, he's a very talented athlete. And I think here they are going uphill. If you can look at the way they are struggling there, and I think, as you earlier said, it looks like he has broken away from everyone else, and I think he's very ready.
Yeah, but okay. Besides Daniel Simiyu, we've got the likes of Geoffrey Kirui. He's a resident of Nakuru. The weather should be very comfortable for him, or it's not always the case?
Well, I think most of these athletes, despite the fact that they come from this region, sometimes their training place is probably in Iten, in Nandi. So few athletes actually at the moment they are training in these places. I think most of the athletes who are training in Keringet are those who are running track and field. for majority of them. But if you look at the marathoners, they would always prefer, because remember this, that Nakuru is a little bit of low altitude, and therefore it's not very good for them, especially for training for marathon or anyone who is training for long distance. It's very important that they have to train in
I think Geoffrey Kirui's most noticeable victory was in London Marathon. I think that was in 2017, and you are trying to think about the altitude levels in Nairobi as compared, or rather Nakuru as compared to London. That difference, how much does it create in an athlete's preparedness and, of course, eventual performance?
Well, I think we all know very well that most of the competitions that happens is in low altitude. You would find that most of the time, except for the sprints, altitude doesn't affect so much. But when it comes to long distance running, you need a low altitude. And I think Nakuru, the beauty of Nakuru is that it's not so high altitude. I think it's between around 1,000, 1,200 meters above the sea level. If you look at London, we are talking about 100 meters above the sea level. So definitely it does affect. But again, it all depends with the road. And I think if we look at this race right now, they are in the upper hillside of Nakuru. They should be going down now because I think we have about how many minutes to the competition?
The competition has been going on for the last slightly over 26 minutes, and among these athletes is the leading lady in jersey number 100. I'm yet to confirm her name, but she's doing pretty well, looking at the fact that she's running between gentlemen, and you want to believe also it is quite demanding for a lady in between three gentlemen like this, and that is a clear indication of how tough she can be, and she's got a good chance now of going all the way. And as you said, Daniel Simiyu leading the men's pack. I'm trying to imagine that this running as well contributes so much to the tourism of Nakuru County. They've got quite some impressive sceneries and lakes, Elementaita, Naivasha, Nakuru lakes, and as so many other areas of interest, places like Menengai Crater and so on. I'm trying to think, how much does such an international stature event contribute to such a city in terms of attracting international attention, and of course looking at the New York, London, the likes of Tokyo and so on. They organize such events purely as an attraction activity for them to capture international attention.
Thank you. If you allow me, maybe to mention, especially if we look at the screen right now, you mentioned something about the ladies running besides men. Those are the pace setters. If you look at the two guys, they are the pace setters for the lady. I think what I'm noticing is the race organizers decided that probably maybe they want a very fast time in the half marathon for the ladies, and that is why you find that during the men's we don't see any pace setters, because pace setters is very important in a race because they will make it very fast. They will make a race very fast. Okay. And if you look at this right now, we have the ladies having a pace setters. It means they are targeting very fast times. They are very important actually, and it has got different categories in terms of records that are there, because I think like in Kenya we are holding 2 world records, both for those who are having male pace setters and those who are having running alone. And that is why if you look at this, the meeting organizers, I believe, make a deliberate decision that we want to make this race an international, whereby our viewers and the people who love athletics in this country are able to understand why are we having a lady paced by men. Yes. It is standard, it is allowed in world athletics. It's allowed even if it means the world record, it will always be ratified. Yes. But it is in categories. So I think they wanted to bring us different categories, whereby we have men running alone, and then we have women, bringing in the blend of having the pace setters, as men. Now you mentioned about the importance of city marathons. It's all about tourism, and I believe this is what the organizers envision. and especially having the Nakuru county government, coming in. Definitely they want to showcase, Nakuru, the beauty of Nakuru, different places that attracts tourists. So having this event there, and because you have got to remember, Francis, that this, I believe, this is Simiyu right now, that is breaking away. And I think, he's going to have a very fast time. I think this is a debut for...
And you want to appreciate that he's going uphill, but he looks pretty comfortable as well.
Absolutely.
And clearly, like our hashtag is saying, it can be. And he's looking at his clock and he believes he can produce quite some impressive timing. And you want to believe this is something he has already registered, that he is not going to lose this race. We want to believe he's doing pretty well because it's already half hour gone, and the situation is looking pretty comfortable for the gentleman, Daniel Simiyu. He has just finished the uphill section and is almost headed for the downhill, the first edition of the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon. It's a half marathon, 21 kilometers race. Over 2,500 participants are in these events. We've got the 10 kilometers race as well, and the 5 kilometers family fun event as well. And this is courtesy of a Stanbic Bank, the county government of Nakuru, and of course other sponsors including Geothermal. And as things look at the moment, the ladies as well doing pretty well. Lady number 1 is just number 100, and they said he's being paced by the 2 gentlemen. Clearly they are pace setters. Just to understand from your events back then, you're in the 800 meters. Majority of times the 10,000, 5,000 meters is where you see pace setters, and then eventually they withdraw. Do shorter races require any pace setting, like let's say the 2-lap race like yours?
Well, yes, definitely. For 800 meters, there's always pace setters, but especially, what is important, especially for the marathons, the half marathons, are pace setters, because they are good to help the athletes so that they don't run very fast. If you look at Simiyu, and I think he's now going uphill. I think before he was going downhill, and if you look at right now, he's going uphill, and I think he's very strong. Francis, we will be surprised what times is this guy going to run. I can tell you that if you look at the race itself, because I understand from an athlete's point of view, that the pace that is moving, is quite fast, especially for even half marathon. I think we should be
sort of weather.
Yeah, this sort of weather. Of course, as I said again, for the half marathon, this weather is very good for them. They don't need hot weather.
Keeps cool.
Yeah, it keeps the body cool. I'm yet to see him pick some drinks. I believe the organizers must have had drinks, because it's very important for him. Because you have got to remember, if you run this race without taking any water, it is easy for you to pay at 18 kilometers, even 20 kilometers, 1 kilometer to go. So I think it's very important that whoever are there, should be able to, because he may be in front and may not be able to realize, where the water is.
Yes.
And I think, having him
the organizers have that responsibility of guiding them.
Absolutely, because when we talk about the organizers making the race international, they must make sure that everything is set with these soft drinks, with these the rain. They have got to make sure that it's up to the international standard. But I think I've looked at this race and I've seen the terrain itself. Everywhere they're running, it's tarmacked, it's well tarmacked, it's good. So definitely it gives that chance for these guys, not anyone to have an excuse, because we have seen.
And then looking at the routes that they're following, clearly you can say if you can do well in such a race, you've got a very good chance in Tokyo, in London, in New York, whichever city you go to, you'll do pretty well, because this is pretty the same condition that you're supposed to endure.
Yes, absolutely, because when you look at these big athletes who have decided to run, most of them, they have got to come and see the race, the route, so that you do not want to come to compete locally and then get injured, and you will lose the whole season, because remember the marathon season starts in next February.
Yes.
If an athlete gets injured because of the terrain that they were doing, and especially for the top athletes, you would be asked, why did you make a decision to go and run in such a race? So they have got to come and see, watch how the route is, make sure that there is nowhere that they can easily get injured, and that is why they make a decision.
And I want to believe, of course, Athletics Kenya, and in conjunction with the World Athletics agents, will have also made proper assessment to give the technical advice that the route selection is supposed to use, so that they do not make the wrong choice of routes.
Absolutely, because I think something very important is that before the meeting organizers will say that we want to do a race, they have mapped the route. Athletics Kenya, before they give a license, they must come to the ground, see where you want to use, they do the measurement, they realize that, okay, the route is very good, and therefore they can be able to give the green light for you to organize the race. And I think, for this, I have seen so far, Francis, and I can assure you, this race is one to be the biggest. I can assure you, and especially I want to, applaud Stanbic Bank, Nakuru County, for making such a decision, because from an athlete's point of view, where I sit right now, I'm happy with what I see. I can tell you that this race has a very huge chance to be able to grow.
Yeah.
And to be able
I
to
think also you mentioned the county government as well as the other sponsors led by Stanbic Bank. I am also reminded that Geoffrey Kirui is from Nakuru County. We've got, of course, Faith Kipyegon, our star 1500 meters two-time Olympic champion. She also comes from Keringet. They have really managed the Afraha Stadium pretty well compared to many other stadiums across the country where we've got a lot of challenges. And they're also putting up a new stadium around Keringet, which is a higher altitude region for Nakuru County. So Nakuru is not new to athletics per se.
Well, I think what we need to mention is that Nakuru has a very big chance, and especially the sites of Keringet, they have a very big chance because the county government has taken a lead role in terms of investment. I think we had earlier on the CEC saying that we want to invest in sport, we want to invest in athletics because this is something that we are good in. And we urge other counties that they have athletics and they have athletes doing very well to be able to organize such kind of races, because as you rightly said, apart from Geoffrey Kirui who comes from there, we have Mercy Cherono that I think she's lined to run today.
Yes,
she comes from the same region.
She's known for the 5,000 meters.
Yes, exactly, and I think she's making a decision. Maybe I don't know whether she's going to run the 5,000 or the half marathon, but again, she's going to compete today, and she comes from that region. I think something that we need to mention, Francis, is that I don't know if the county government have decided, because remember these athletes, the big athletes who are competing here, sometimes they have what we call appearance fee. If this race is international, yes, we believe.
It is international. I have some Ugandans and I think some Ethiopians that I saw yesterday during the preparations, during the preview. So they have some athletes
absolutely.
outside.
And that makes the race organizers now, to dip into their pockets for them to have these athletes, because an athlete like Mercy Cherono to agree to come and run in this race, an athlete like Geoffrey Kirui, Dan Simiyu, Patrice Chebet, Bridget Koskei to compete here, first and foremost, they will have been given an incentive, which is their right.
Yes.
And I think the race organizers must have. And if you can tell, and I think most of the people, the organizers, all the organizers who are there, they will be happy with the way the event will have turned up. They will be happy with their investment, because when you have very good times, you have top athletes competing. At the end of the day, there's something, we always good in terms of investment is good for them.
Yes,
it's good also for their, for some
inspire
incentives.
Also, and also I think it elevates the event to some caliber that is worth, for a start, being the first edition of the Stanbic Nakuru City Half Marathon. And of course, as you can see, the ladies and gentlemen are already off and midway through the race. 40 or so minutes since they kicked off at the start, and they've finished the uphill region, and now they seem to be going downhill. I want to believe we've got slightly over another 30 or 20 minutes to go. If you look at the international settings and timings.
I think what we needed to do, and I think maybe for next time, we should be able to have the car that shows the clock.
Yes.
Because it's very important, even for the athletes themselves. Because when you have a clock, and I believe maybe our cameras should be able to get, if there is,
yes.
Because that way it gives us a chance to
yes.
be able to notice the time, and also it helps these athletes. Because if you see, before the start of this race, every athlete had their own watch.
Yes.
It looks like, if they didn't have a car that shows them the watch,
you have to keep timing
you
yourself.
have to be timing yourself and see what distance. But again, it could have been very good for us to be able to understand what time are they going to run. The scenery, some very good scenery.
Very impressive indeed. The Lake Nakuru that we all believe is a hallmark of what Nakuru is all about. We've got Lake Naivasha. We cannot forget Elementaita. And what else would anyone be asking for, conscious that this is also a national park?
We have a very beautiful scenic, environment in Nakuru, and I think the race organizers actually, as
they'll be taking a lot of pride
as
in
they
the
said
quality.
before. Yeah, absolutely, because they mentioned about we want to showcase Nakuru, and I think what we see in our screens is really beautiful. And as we said, Francis, earlier on, that Nakuru will look different after this race.
Yes, and I also want to give credit where it's due. I think the government has done pretty well, together with the county government, to organize the roads. They look pretty good as compared to the situation that we were dealing with years back. We've got a national park very much inside the lake, and this is another opportunity altogether also for even international runners to see beyond Nairobi, beyond Eldoret, which is also another city that is holding its own marathon. Currently also one of the star events in Kenya, alongside Mombasa. We've got of course Kisumu also, and I want to believe many other towns will be taking the cue, because this is a huge profile building event for them.
Remember this, Francis, that this race is watched internationally. I believe so. Anyone who loves athletics, and they know, because Athletics Kenya puts the calendar for all the events going on, and anybody who loves athletics, they know very well that Kenya is a powerhouse in athletics. They will want to watch. I believe the organizers already have it in YouTube, and if you put the sceneries of Nakuru, many people, those who love athletics, because we have, Francis, many people who may come to this, they go to run and also sightseeing, and if they are able to look at that, and they wonder, look, next year,
there you go, the highways.
Yeah, and I can tell you, come next year, you will find that so many international athletes will come in. They would want to be able to participate here. They will, at the end of the day, once we see the times that these guys will have competed, everybody would want to come and compete here, because they will realize that,
there goes the drink.
Yeah, there
you're
goes
asking
the drink.
whether there are drinks around.
Yeah, which is very, very important for these guys to hydrate, because otherwise, as I said earlier, for every athlete, they must hydrate. It's something very important.
But I also think it's a great opportunity for the locals. They are so used to watching their national stars and big athletes outside the country, in other cities, and this day they are watching them right at their doorstep.
Yeah, many people actually, I can tell you, they love athletics. They love to watch these guys, running live, on the streets, not watching always on television. And therefore, for Nakuru people, as much as we have not seen so many people they have lined up, but I think by the time they are going to the end, you will see that there is so many people. And I think, look, the lady here, I wish we could be able to get her name, and her pesetas, she's also doing very well. I've seen she has already overtaken some professional men who are competing, because I think the organizers, what they decided to do is to flag off all races, for both men and women.
Yes.
And I think if you see, there is already some guys behind there, probably those who are starting to compete. And I think once we get the name of the lady who is
number 100.
Yeah, she's doing actually pretty well.
Our director trying to get communication from the team of panelists up in Nakuru to get us to know the lady in jersey number 100, who she is. But this one we are not doubting, it's Daniel Simiyu.
Yeah, he's doing very well actually.
He's already in the Nyahururu route. I want to believe is planning either put some pretty good time. Looking at the pace at which he's been running all through, he does not be worried about people behind him anymore. He's more concerned where he's headed now.
Well, Simi athlete, and I think, you know, many 10,000s making a decision, you know, to do half marathon. This, I can tell you, you know, Simi has a very bright, is one of the athletes in the future. We know very well, you know, the time for jockey will be soon. Maybe he may still have 2-3 years or even 5. I mean, he has always said that, you know, he doesn't announce his retirement. Yes. But having Simiyu here competing the way he's competing, it's a very good chance that this country is full of talent. This country will always have to replenish, you know, their athletes. And even if you look at the second group, you know, doing Simiyu, they are competing very well. They are very good. They have a high chance as well of being able to put very good.
He's already reached the again, headed for the route back center where they're supposed to be finishing. I'm also believing that the organizers, Martin Keino, the chairperson of the local organizing committee, the son of the great Kip Keino, and his team of about 80 organizers will have, of course, engaged the security agents. We've seen quite a number of police cars and chase motorcycles. But how important is it that such an event organization does bear in mind safety of athletes and, of course, organize motorists not to stop traffic but ensure people keep moving?
Well, I think for the route, what is important internationally, once you have marked a route, you have got to remember that it will be completely closed for the entire period of the competition. If you look at every route right now that you are able to do, is those routes will be cordoned off to make sure that, you know, there is no any interruption, because otherwise, you know, you do not want to get your, especially as a race organizer, you don't want these athletes to get injured, because the chances of having a top athlete, you know, getting injured in your meeting, it will be a disaster. And therefore, I think you and I, Francis, you know, have looked at this route. You know, there is no cars that is moving around. It gives these athletes to be able to compete without any injuries. I believe, you know, that Martin and his team had to make sure that, you know, the routes that they are going to use are not going to be also very busy, so that, you know, you don't want to have a city marathon that people will be complaining, you know, because in the other case you may have a marathon maybe if they close, and I think what we need to echo is the government being able to have because you see the bypass, you know, these athletes are going under the bridge.
Yes.
For the Nakuru Nairobi highway, they have got to go below the bridge. Yes. for them to go through. And I think, you know, it looks like they are going in 2 cycles in the same place, because I think they have crossed there twice. It looks like again and again they are going to the upper hill area for the second time, because the route must be marked in such a way that they are able to, it doesn't, you know, if you look at London, for example, this year, they were able to do the looping, you know, whereby they are going around the track, you know, whatever route that was marked. If you look at when they were running the 159 for Eliud Kipchoge, so there is nothing wrong actually in a race organizer having a race that will have loops, you know, that they are able to go around the tracks or the trails that is being marked. I think our athlete 100, we haven't put her name.
The lady is
she's doing very well,
determined. I mean, you can clearly see also she has sustained and maintained her pace. That is also an indication of how much resilience she's putting in this. And of course, her pace setters that you mentioned earlier. What exactly does a pace setter need to do? Are you supposed to beat your sponsor?
Well, absolutely not. You know, I mean, something very important. Pace setters are supposed to give a certain pace. That is why they are called pace setters. And remember this, Francis, that when you are competing as an athlete, you do not want to run very fast, slow, run fast. So the work of the pace setters is to keep certain pace continuous, and that is why you see these guys. They have got, of course, again, you have got, as a pace setter, you cannot just go in front. You have got to watch your the athlete that you are pacing for, so that you don't go in front, you don't ban them. If you look at right now, most of the time, if you watch here, they are able to look back to see where she is. Is she comfortable with the pace that they are
using
moving?
Also hand signals at times to show her when they feel she's slowing down,
or if they see anything on the road, because sometimes, you know, I mean, I've seen some potholes along that route, so they have got to alert the athletes so that they don't get, because look, she's not able to see who is in front there. She's not able to see where she's stepping, and that is why when these guys notice anything, they are able to mention. You see, I mean, the guy who is pacing, you know, is looking back, so that he has got to make sure that, you know, the athlete is comfortable with the pace that they are moving
and consistent.
Because
there are competitors behind.
Yeah, absolutely. They have got to really watch, and I can tell you, I mean, I'm very, very impressed with the pace these guys are competing, and I think high chance we are going to have fast times. I believe the ladies may run below 80 minutes. You see, Simi is giving a thumbs up.
Yeah, he's
saying that I'm ready.
He's just gone past Jamhuri school. I've realized that they are slightly under 10 minutes to the finish line, and that is why he's indicating that he's doing pretty well, because he's seen the end is very much in sight at the moment. I was just about to ask you about the pace setters, looking at how Kipchoge was paced during the Ineos Challenge when he broke that 2-hour mark, and of course with this brand of no man is limited in terms of their ability. The pace setters were organized in a manner that he was always kept at the middle of the pack. He was like the nucleus, while the rest were like side running, and ensuring that he does not miss the pace, neither does he slow, and whenever he slows down, they have to try and pull him forward as much as possible.
Well, that is basically what the work of the pace setters is. You know, a pace setter is supposed to give certain pace. You're not supposed to either slow or move. You are supposed to give certain pace. If you look at Simiyu, despite the fact that he does not have a pace, Francis, we have watched his pace has been very consistent.
Yes.
You see, coming from track, running 10,000, he knows in every lap I've got to run 60 or 62 seconds per lap.
Yes.
Now, when you come to the track like here, you know, you have got to maintain the same pace.
Yes.
Now, for him to be able to compete and for him to be able to give the pace, his training, what is important is his training. The way he has been training always is he becomes an athlete that he does not need to run very fast in the end. Because in a marathon, in a half marathon or a full marathon, you have got to keep certain pace. Otherwise, you cannot do what we call fartlek. Fartlek is a situation whereby an athlete runs very fast, then slows, run very fast.
Okay.
Cross country, this is what happens in cross country. But in a marathon, you have got to have your pace very set. And I think, you know, I mean, look, he's really, really very
He's gone past that small roundabout near.
Yeah, I think he's heading to the finish line, if I'm not wrong.
He should be slightly under 6 minutes now. To the finish line.
To the finish line,
and he keeps this pace.
And I can tell you that, you know, he has given quite a distance to the second person. You know, the second group actually, you know, is still far away, because this is the second group. And I think he has given them almost like 2-3 minutes in front.
Meaning is the lady is doing pretty well. She's just taken that circle around the bypass, the underpass, and I was just about to ask you. What really differentiates the roles being played by the cyclist, the motorcyclist, the chase car, and of course the ambulance for the athlete, well, psychologically?
Well, I think first and foremost, you know, in every race you must have why are we having a car there? You know, I mean, that is very wrong.
Now that is very
that is something very wrong for whoever.
And you know, the person is still trying to squeeze himself past that junction.
Yeah, I think
it's very wrong.
I think something for, especially for our viewers, you know, we should not have such kind of incidences whereby, you know, as you drive and you see some athletes competing, you should just pull aside because you will distract an athlete.
Yes.
Wow, he's coming to the finish line. I say it, sir.
Yeah, he's headed for the finish line. He should be finishing now, and there comes the winner, jersey number 999, Daniel Simiyu, clocking, I think, slightly over 54.
I think we should be able to, we should have had in our screens, and I can tell you, you know, I mean, Simiyu was in his own shape.
He's hit. Steve Keter will be catching up with him in a minute as he catches his breath and wins his medal.
Having the Daniel for winning the 21-kilometer men's race, and we're just gonna have a with Daniel Simiyu. Congratulations for winning this race, and recently just came race and you have managed to win this race. Maybe how was it?
Okay, let me say thank you very much. I was just coming to because last week I was in Cape Town where I was going for the world best, but the wind denied me trying the world best. So my coach told me you have to go to Nakuru for speed. Still have the speed of enduring.
And it has rained this morning. Maybe did the rain in any way help you maybe to sustain the...
It was very fantastic. The weather was nice, and I thank God for giving me strength and effort. Thank you.
Plans?
I am planning maybe next year to run for the World Cross Country Tour and going back to prepare for World Championship or Commonwealth. The one I will go, I will appreciate and I will thank God. Yeah.
Well, again,
There goes the winner. He's appreciated, like he said. The weather was pretty good for the race, and as he's also said, he had not come there conscious that he has an opportunity at all. He was just coming to compete, and he's just surprised himself that he's the one, and he's very happy to have become the first winner of the Stanbic Nakuru City Half Marathon, 21 kilometers. I want to believe he's taken something close to 54 minutes. We shall confirm that from the officials and organizers after doing the proper and official timing. And the lady who is just about to take the lady's title, if at all she can remain on course as things look, is also doing pretty well, not very far away from where we saw Simiyu around was it Jamhuri School?
Jamhuri School, yeah. I think, and we have got to remember this, that, you know, these guys will not go to the end.
Yes.
Before they reach the finish line, yes, they will have to be able to pull back because, you know, they are not allowed to cross the line, yes, with the winner. So I think their work is almost done and they have got to pull out. And I think, you know, they have done very well. I think, Francis, you know, we have got to remember what we were just mentioning before, that for Dan Simiyu, he said that, you know, this is a preparation for next year. I told you that most of the guys who are competing, who are making a decision to run even all the way to the end of the season, it gives them a chance because they don't need to have a lot of break. Most athletes, you know, sometimes they take a very long break, you know, as a professional athlete. If you take more than a month, the chances of getting injured is very high. So for him, I can tell you that, you know, he has a very good chance, and I'm happy that, you know, he mentioned that he wants to be able to compete next year. We have the World Championships. He has a very good chance, showing that, you know, he's a disciplined athlete. By the time that an athlete makes a decision to come and run locally, despite the fact that he's a renowned athlete, he's making a deliberate decision to say that, you know, instead of me sitting back home, let me just go, you know, to be able to compete. You know, he has made himself, you know, 500,000
shillings, yes,
richer. So, and it's the same thing, you know, for, and I think, you know,
there's another lady who's really
exactly. I wanted to mention about
he is trying to catch up.
I wanted to
she's also at Jamhuri School. I was just thinking about Simiyu's decision, conscious that this event is, let me call it an off-season event, because the actual international calendar of events resumes around February next year. When somebody chooses this event, you're saying it helps keep them in form and shape and fitness as well, in readiness for the big events.
Yes, and I think before even we mentioned that, this race is going to be between the lady wearing jersey number 100 and the other one. Because you see, there is something that I mentioned before. I said sometimes you may burn yourself when you move fast at the initial stages of the race.
And the lady is closing.
And you see, the other one is coming from behind. In fact, I can tell you, Francis, that I've seen over the, you have watched even most of them, and our viewers probably have watched races. You see these athletes who was in front, and then suddenly he's being catched up.
Exactly.
It depends on what you do behind, at the initial stages, because
it looks like it will be a sprint finish.
Yeah, and despite the fact that there is a lot of, there was the pace setters, but the other lady is also catching up on her. And if she has speed, this is where you mentioned earlier on, and you say that for marathon it's not finishing kick. Yeah. If the second lady, who is following her, if she has a very good kick, because again she's determined, there's a lot of determination when you are chasing the second person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but just to ask, they've just gone past Menengai High. I'm also wondering about the pace setters. If the pace setters were to go to the finish line and they happen to be among the leading pack, what happens?
Well, there is only one situation. Sometimes you may be, especially for those races that a lady is pacing for them, and then you realize that despite the fact that you're a pace setter, but you still have power to go and finish, you'll be declared a winner because you started from the beginning. Nobody will say that you're not supposed to.
Wow.
To compete. So that one is allowed in this case. But of course,
so you still count as a racer in the event.
Absolutely. I've seen many guys who were invited, to pace for these top athletes. When they reach 35 kilometers, I'm talking about a full marathon, they realize that, I still have power. Probably maybe there's only one person. These guys, they make a decision. Even if you finish second or third, still you get your prize money, and you get also the prize money for the third position.
Yes.
Because you have decided to finish.
Yes.
You see, it's getting really very close, and I can tell you that
the pace setters of the jersey number 100 are really trying to push her to the finish line, because they've seen the competition is pretty tight at the moment. The jersey blue lady is now slightly over 20 meters behind them. I don't think this is going to be very easy at the finish line. It could be another opportunity for a sprint, and she's now literally,
I think I can
almost cornered.
From my point of view as an athlete, the lady in jersey blue is going to win. I can assure you that. Reason why is because she's determined. She's coming from behind. She's chasing her, and I can tell you that there's nothing as bad as an athlete. When you have someone chasing you behind and very close, and you can imagine you have gone a distance of 20 kilometers, Francis, only for you to lose a race within
the last 100 meters
or even the last kilometer. You have competed all that distance, and this is what happened.
The gentleman is really pushing to make sure she enters the stadium.
And talking to her that she's actually coming behind. You see, looking behind and advising.
They're headed for the stadium now. I can see indications that they're just about to get into the stadium and go to the finishing line. She's really determined to keep up the pace and eventually emerge the winner. There she comes, and number 2 needs to be appreciated. She's done pretty well, given a lot of competition, and finally she has won, but the difference is barely 20 seconds between the two. We shall get to know the winner from Keter. Steve Keter, our colleague in Nakuru, will be giving us indications of this winner, and jersey number 682 as well, the second lady, who has done pretty well, and you can tell it was such a tough competition in the end, in the ladies at the finish line. The lady who got the silver has done pretty well. You can see she's very energetic. Like you said, it was just another a kilometer or so and things could have changed.
Yeah, it could have, because you see, she was coming from behind, and I think the weather also has taken a toll on her body. And probably, you see, there is something that is very important, because if you see an athlete having maybe some kind of headaches and such kind of things.
A 21-kilometer women's race. Congratulations for winning today's race. And how do you feel with the winner of the first edition of the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon?
A breath, and as always, the winner has to be given all the honors that come with it. And now we have seen more ladies streaming past the finish line, an indication that a pretty big number of ladies were following her. And just to ask from you, athlete, I know this can be a bit awkward. How does it feel as a winner when you just arrive at the finish line and all these media people are rushing their microphones? How was the race? You've not even been able to catch up your breath.
Actually, Francis, let me tell you, I mean, you guys, you always like to harass us, you know, with questions, and you are yet even to catch a breath, and especially for a marathon like this. But you know, there is something that they always say that, you know, if you want to get a real picture, you want to real the truth, get the athlete, you know, when they are still having their breath.
Yes.
So, but I think, you know, look, I think something that I may have noticed is that
more ladies are streaming in than men.
Streaming in than men right now. I mean, they are very close, and I think, you know, we had very good athletes. It tells you what kind of an athlete that the athletes, especially for the ladies, it tells you that, you know, the bigger number of athletes, you are real professionals, and that's why you are able to see them very close.
Yes, but in terms of coming to the finish line, and for example, the lady who was just won the race, Simiyu earlier, once you win that event and you came into this championship conscious that there will be high competition, what goes through your mind to realize that actually I've won?
When you are going to every competition,
they have found the lady now, she has settled.
And here we have the winner of the 21-kilometer women's race. Unajisikiaje kwa mshindi wa kwanza wa makala ya Stanbic Marathon?
So, position matu acha ni jaribu. Hii ni mara kimbia 21. Last man nilikia Rafi nikakutentu. Alafu hii ni the second kukimbia 21.
Tumeona unaweza kunyesha leo, pengine imekusaidia kwa njia yote kuweza.
Nilikuwa naomba tu hali ya weta. Nilisikia huku ni joto. Vile niliamka asubuhi yuko rasha sikuwa na waris.
Na pengine uko na mpango gani mwaka kesho? Kuna World Championships, kuna Commonwealth Games, pengine uko na malengo gani?
Natarajia naenda kuprepare Commonwealth. Inategemea na coach.
Pengine ungependa kukimbia mbio gani, 10 kilometers ama
10 kilometers.
Fanya mazoezi upande upi?
Marakwet. Kapsait.
Asante sana. That was the winner of the 21 kilometers, and
congratulations to the winner there, taking the ladies title in the first edition of Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon, which is a 21-kilometer race. And of course it was quite a finishing moment for her, because she was hearing and feeling of her competitor who came in second to take silver at that finishing moment, and you can tell really to fight to keep the title.
And I think, you know, something become very interesting in this race. We have Dan Simiyu, you know, for the first time half marathon. We are having the lead, you know, running the first time half marathon and winner. And I think this is something very impressive, and especially for the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon and the Nakuru for them to have been able to organize such kind of. And I think, you know, as you heard from especially the Francis, they have both mentioned that this is a preparation for them to compete. I can tell you that, especially for our viewers, these athletes who make a decision to come and compete here next year, they will be one of the best athletes that will be because they have not taken a very long. This is something very important. Every professional athlete who wants to compete for men, they cannot allow and they cannot allow themselves a very long break, because that way you will be prone to injury. I think, you know, if you look at everybody who has competed for the ladies, we have got to give a lot to the ladies who made the differences, because if you look at that, for them, as I said earlier, you know, for them to be that, it means they were very ready. Again, it's all about money sometimes. If you will know that, you know, you have a high chance of winning this race, and you have close to, I mean, we have a million shillings, you know, to win. Definitely it makes everybody to think that, you know, I'm going to compete there. I believe that the race organizers have made a decision also to pay from number 1 to number
15.
10, because to number 15.
Number 15, the top 15 will get an award.
Okay, if the 15 are getting an award, I can tell you that is why you find many races that will attract top athletes, because they know, worst comes to the worst, I can still be in top 10. I can still come home with something. It is something very important for every race organizer that would wish to organize a race in this country, to give prize money even to number 20, because that way you give a chance to every athlete who has come and sacrificed to come and compete there, for them to be able to go home with something.
Okay, what else inspires, or let me say, gives incentive to runners beyond the cash prize? For example, when you go into an international event, you may not necessarily win the cash prize. You said there is always an incentive to inspire serious and top athletes to participate in an event that is given as an appearance fee. But beyond the cash prize, what else inspires an athlete to take part in such an event?
Well, I think building your profile, because you have got to remember that athletics has become a profession. They would want to know which other race did you compete. You know, you have got these times, you have competed in a number of races, because for you to be able to be considered an athlete, you have got to have run many competitions. Remember that, you know, I mean, most Kenyan athletes that are being known here, it is because they have been able to run for so many races, they have been able to run for so many years. Otherwise, you know, you cannot be considered. I mean, how many athletes, Francis, can you count in this country, despite the fact that we have got thousands of us? You can mention a very few of them. And the reason why you can remember the few athletes who have competed is because of the number of competitions, and especially the championships. You ask a very important question, that what else are these athletes looking for? Number one, something very important is to be able to have a title, to be able maybe to, in over the years, you may break a world record, you may win championships. You prepare yourself, because these athletes, Francis, I can tell you that it takes a number of years, especially for those who run marathon. You know, you don't wake up today and compete in a half marathon, 21 kilometers, and you expect to win. These athletes, I can assure you, they have trained for so many months, they have trained for a number of years, and most of them, let me tell you, Francis, that, you know, most marathoners, they will have a breakthrough at the age of maybe from 28 all the way to 35 years old. Because for marathon, you don't compete when you are very young. That's why you find that for the sprinters, you know, they can only run until when they are 27, and then they retire. For the marathoners, they compete. You
transition from middle-level distance races all the way to the marathon. And
mostly you would find that
country.
And mostly you will find that the older athletes are the ones who are able to do very well in marathons compared to, for example, to younger athletes. And
is there a biological reasoning?
Well, I don't know what it is biological, but the body builds, because you remember this, you know, you have got to have done your muscles for, you know, for a number of years for you to be able to do a marathon. Marathon is not something that you wake up today and decide that you are running.
It's an endurance.
It's an endurance, and that is why if you see an athlete like Eliud Kipchoge, for example, that is able to do the times that he's doing, we may ask ourselves that had he competed maybe in 2003 when he was running as a junior, would he have run these times? Absolutely not.
Yes.
Because the marathon is completely a different
He was actually doing
game.
very well in the 5,000 meters
I mean,
against the likes of Haile Gebrselassie.
Kenenisa Kebegele.
Yes.
Yeah, but you see, many people may ask if he had made a decision at that period to run a marathon, would he have competed, would he have beaten times? Absolutely, I can tell you that he would have not been able to, because a marathon is completely a different game altogether. Like for me, I give a lot of respect for those athletes who make a decision that, what they want to do is to do a marathon. It is not an easy event. It is not an event that you wake up and say that, you want to do a marathon. So, and that is why for these athletes who have come here to Stanbic Nakuru Marathon, I can tell you, for them, they have a very big chance to be able to compete next year.
Okay, you can see some athletes or participants are still coming in, still running in, not giving up. What inspires an athlete, whether you are last or not among the top prize winners, to remain in the race and make sure you get to the finish line?
Well, I think, you see, number one, what tells you that you finish, you went to Nakuru? It is by finishing at the times.
Yes.
These athletes are both chasing the positions. Number two, they are chasing the times. Number three, they will enter in the history books of Nakuru City Marathon. That, because for any, let's say the directors or the agents who come to do scouting for these athletes, they will ask you, where have you competed? And the organizers definitely must enter their names. If they had 300 athletes, how many finished?
Yes, and I've seen a basket of medals for the finishers.
Yeah.
As long as you finished the race, you get a medal.
Yes, and that is why for them they are going to put the times also, because we have got timekeepers that are going to do timing for every athlete who has competed there. That way,
everybody will live there knowing what time they took.
Yes, and if, for example, someone comes in, as I said, the scouting agents, you say that I ran for this half marathon. Let's say the winner could have run maybe 62 minutes.
Yes.
You may be number 10.
Yes.
You may be number 15, and you have run 64 minutes. Yes. So that is still a very good time for an athlete. So that is why you find that everybody must make sure that they finish for them to enter the records, for every competition that they have done. And you see, these builds, because you know very well that I finished the race in Nakuru, this is the time I ran, and then next time when you are going to another competition, you are trying to beat your personal best, because every athlete aspires to be able to do something better in every other competition.
Actually, I saw Viola participate in very recently. Was it in New York City Marathon? And she came in second behind, of course, the eventual winner, another Kenyan, Jepchirchir. I was hearing from her interviews of how much she'd never thought she had any opportunity of even being in the finishing line, because she was taking part in the first ever marathon, having been in the 5,000 and probably attempted the cross country and 10,000. What really you're saying is that you can finish as number 60 out of the 2,500 or so athletes, but at the end of the day, some year or two ahead, you've got an opportunity of appearing in the top 10, probably in the top finishers list. So it is always advised that you do not give up because you did not come in the top 10.
Once you have made a decision that you want to be a professional athlete, you can never give up. Going to compete, whatever number you finish, you should be satisfied, learn from it. That is something very key to every professional athlete who is looking forward to. And I think, Francis, if you look at these guys who are here in our screens, majority of them, you see they are putting them in a position. So that way, everybody, this is a certain position.
Yes.
And especially for the prize money that you have mentioned, that, they are paying from number 1 to number 15. Anyone who has run there, anyone who is in the 15 position bracket, I can assure you that these guys are, number one, they will have, despite outside the money. One thing that we need to remember is that for the record, you know, they will be in, they will have participated. I can tell you also that for them to come and compete next year, because it's going to be very competitive, every competition has an invitation.
Yes.
You know, there is
so
a
the
registration.
performance today will play a part.
Will play a part in next year. So, and that is why it is very important for every athlete to make sure that they finish the race.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you know, the race organizers may choose, and especially in the international competitions.
Yes.
Some meeting organizers, because remember they buy your ticket, you know, to go all the way there.
Yes.
Sometimes if you don't come, if you go to a competition, you don't finish a competition, they will say, last year we invited you, we gave you price, we gave you a ticket, we gave you accommodation and all that, you didn't finish the race. Therefore, you cannot, we don't want you to have you here. So that is why every athlete must make sure that they finish the competition.
Okay, I understand Steve Keter is ready to give us some inputs from the participants. Steve?
And well, the 21-kilometer races, both the male and female, both the men and the women categories have gone down, and you have seen Daniel Ebenyo managing to win the men's 21-kilometer race, and Catherine Raylin from Kapsai training camp managing to win the women's race. So I'm joined by my panelists, that is managing editor sports. They are from National Media Group, Elias Makori, seasoned sports writer, and race organizer Martin Kano, just to put into perspective what has gone on today. And starting with you, Mr. Elias Makori, in the morning you told me that this weather of today is favorable for fast times. Do you think that has happened?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race, and you know, it's again pouring just now, which means it's a blessing, because there was heavy rain before the race, and during the race it cooled down a bit, so it gave you know, the athletes the right temperature. Not too hot, you know, Nakuru can actually be hot at times, but it was just the right temperature, the right altitude, you know, at 1,850 meters above sea level. It's great to have a half marathon in Nakuru.
And Martin, you are a former athlete, a pace setter in that matter. Do you think if you are pace setting today, you could be able to inspire some very fast times?
Yes, I believe that you know, the pace was necessary, but it was a fast race anyway. The runners were quite motivated. It was quite competitive at the front, and we were happy to see that they posted very good times. And you know, for the inaugural event, we really want you know, a really exciting event. And fast times, so that it, you know, it attracts more runners, you know, for the upcoming years. That's right.
And maybe for those who are not very familiar with the matters athletics, can you maybe a little bit explain what rain, maybe just a slight rain like this one, can be able to do in athlete's body to make him or her run faster?
Well, certainly the cooling effect of rain is very beneficial for runners, for long distance runners. You know, runners function better when they're not perspiring so much. You know, they're cooled off because the amount of effort they're putting into racing that long distance makes it more efficient and less tiring. And so for the long distance runners, you know, cooler, even slight drizzle like this, also it, you know, enables them to focus more on the race and not sort of the surroundings or the environment so much. You know, so it's actually quite beneficial for long distance runners.
And I can see the rain has decided to be beneficial to us in this discussion. And maybe to you, Elias, we have seen athletes like Daniel Ebenyo. Last week he ran in Cape Town and won, and today he has managed to win. Maybe what are some of the things that inspire such athletes?
Well, actually, on the contrary, my personal opinion is that Simiyu should not be running on the road. We've seen even the lady who won the half marathon. She's barely 21. We are struggling to get athletes in the 5,000 meters on the track, in the 10,000 meters. We lost Agnes Jebet. We need very strong runners in the 5K and 10K on the track. So I'm a bit concerned about the rush onto the road by the athletes. You know, a young athlete going onto the road is not really advisable, because you know, you won't last long. And I'm sure part of the motivation is the money. So COVID kept people home. The athletes didn't have enough races. So now whatever race is available, they're going for it. But on the contrary side, it's good to have more races in Kenya so that we can have more athletes, competing and winning prize money back home, because there is limited travel. There are few opportunities to run elite races out there. But the point that I really want to stress is that, these young kids should not be going onto the road. We need more athletes in the 5,000 meters and 10,000 meters. And I'm sure Martin will agree with me on this.
Yeah. And talking of young athletes coming to track, well, we saw Simiyu was in Team Kenya for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and in the 5,000 meters, he didn't make it to the final. He was stripped in the semi-finals. Maybe do our athletes in some kind of experience on track, or what is driving most of them to the roads?
It's actually the financial aspects. Track, there are very limited races in 5,000 meters and 10,000 meters. That's why you find, for them to earn a living, to survive, they go onto the road, go to the half marathons, the marathons, the 10Ks, even when their body is not ready. They really need to learn from Eliud. Eliud won the world championship on the track in 5,000 meters about 20 years ago. He was on the track for a while, did a couple of Olympic games, and then slowly got onto the road. He is now the best by far in the marathon. These other kids just come at 18, you find somebody running the marathon. It's unacceptable. Yeah. And I think AK, Athletics Kenya, really need to look into this, discourage our young athletes from running the half marathons and the marathons. Let them start on the track, perfect their, their body on the track before getting onto the road, because you get a lot of beating running on the tarmac, and your career doesn't last long if you start at an early age running on tarmac.
And talking on running on tarmac, I'll get back to you. Martin, we have seen this county has been in the forefront producing very top athletes in on track. That we can talk about the Faith Kipyegon, 1500 meters, two-time Olympic champion, and others who come from this county. Maybe what are some of the things that we need to do as athletics stakeholders to make sure that athletes, like Elias has put it, stay on track for considerable time before maybe transitioning to the roads?
Yes, that's a great point that Elias brought about, that so many young athletes are drifting towards the road races because of the financial rewards. What's Nakuru County and Keringet, sort of the epicenter of athletics talent in this county, can do is really to support and encourage these young athletes to stay on the track. There's so much young talent from Keringet and in the greater Nakuru County that needs to be supported, because these young athletes need to stay on the track for a long time. Faith has shown, and she has achieved success from the youth, junior, and all the senior titles that are available to be won. So she's a great example of what needs, why young athletes should, athletes in general, should stay on the track as long as possible. Yeah. So that's they have a fantastic role model with Faith here in the county of Nakuru to encourage the young athletes to stay on the track.
Yeah, and Elias, don't you think maybe having many road races, or we are producing, because of late, Kenyans have been producing top athletes, especially in road races, though Ugandans are coming out strongly. Do you think these local races, like the Nakuru City Marathon, is helping to build more generation of road runners?
Well, it's a very good move by the Nakuru County government, and I must say or register my disappointment that looking at the devolution conference that ended in Makueni, sports was hardly on the agenda. County governments are not, giving sport the treatment it deserves. So it's good to see Nakuru coming up with this race. They are building a track at Keringet, which is very good. I mean, like you said, and Martin mentioned, Faith Chepngetich is an athlete from this area. We have Geoffrey Kirui, who's former world champion. So I mean, county governments need to give a bigger vote to sports development instead of only looking at the national exchequer, the national government, to build facilities. Yes, we have a good race now. We need a stronger Mombasa Marathon, so that right from sea level, climbing up to Nairobi, 1,700 meters above sea level, a good race. We already have a few races like the Nairobi Marathon. Now we have Nakuru going up to Eldoret, 18,000 meters above sea level. So Kenya is blessed with all different altitudes, terrains, and conditions. And then again, another important point is that, with COVID-19, athletes have been restricted from traveling. A lot of races have been cancelled. And these are professional runners. They need to eke out a living from running. So the more races we have that are well paying, I mean, $500,000 for the winner today, it's a good paycheck. Many half marathon races in Europe don't pay that much. And when you're going to Europe, you have to consider your air ticket, your accommodation, COVID tests, which are very expensive. But now here you just catch a matatu and you are in Nakuru, you are in Kisumu, Mombasa, Kisii, Eldoret, and you have your race. So the more races we have, especially in the upcoming season 2022, the better for the athletes, because COVID is with us. The restrictions are going to stay and athletes are going to lose a lot of money. So let us build our own races. Meetings like the Cape Keno Classic, races like this one today, and many more will help athletes earn, right on their backyards.
Yeah, and before we wrap up and hand over back to Wilfred Bungei and Francis Mutegi in our Nairobi studios, maybe a quick I go to Matt. Do you think we are coming from a COVID period, which was very intense, which inspired lockdowns to restrict the spread of the virus? And recently, when the races opens, we have seen, especially the local races, we have seen a surge of participants, a lot of participants coming in. Do you think there's any relations?
Yeah, many athletes have not competed. And if you look at the global records, there have been a lot of world records in the COVID era because races have been fewer. Athletes have kept their body in good shape, they have not over-raced, so they're coming back very strong. You've seen the World Half Marathon record, for example, Ireland, for the men's side and the women's side. I mean, Jacob Kiplimo running.
Let me cut you short a little bit. Your mic is bringing issues. To you, Martin, yesterday I came here and I managed to speak to some athletes. Some were from Uganda. Do you think that maybe in the coming years, the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon will be able to maybe attract athletes from top athletes from around the world?
Most definitely, that's the plan for us. We definitely look to go international from next year and attract runners from really all over the world, because the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon, there's so many positives around it. The geographic location, the temperate weather, the fantastic course, plus the sports tourism angle. Nakuru County offers so many opportunities that we can have actually a sports tourism that places it high above maybe other marathons in Kenya. So we're looking to attract international runners here in Nakuru County from next year. This Nakuru City Marathon.
Yeah, and I can't wrap up this conversation without talking about this, Mr. Elias. We have seen Ugandans are coming strongly. Now they are taking records. Do you think that Kenyans are now on a high alert?
Yeah, actually, those are warning shots that were fired long ago. Just talking about the Ugandans, warning shots were fired by the Gay. He's dominated it, all the way from the 5K going up to the 10. You've seen Kiplimo, running what was the time, Martin, again?
57:31.
57. You can imagine 20 years ago, Moses Tanui became man to run under 1 hour in the half marathon. Right now, records are going right and center, and Ugandans have this equation. They are coming up with training. The guy has his own training camp in his home area, so it's a focused kind of approach. They are taking towards it, and that's why I was insisting that we have more athletes running K and 10K on the track before getting onto the road, because they are really, closing in on us. And I think that going into next year, because next year we have huge competitions. We have the World Championships, we have the Commonwealth Games, and of course the Cape Keno Classic and others, Diamond League. So we really need to prepare a lot, to get the Ugandans off our back. I don't know what you think, Martin, about this.
Most definitely. I mean, the Ugandans have been coming along over the years. but the last 2 years, their performances are sort of upstaging us on the longer distance races on the track. So we have to be wary of the competition by our neighbours. So, like you say, Elias, we really have. We have to encourage and support our sort of 5K, 10K runners on the track, because for the longest time we've sort of been upstaged by our rivals, be it our northern, eastern, or western rivals. So that's something that is the Athletics Kenya and actually the general athletics community really need to focus on. Because Mo Farah has been dominant for a few years. The Ethiopians, Haile Gebrselassie, Bekele, and now from Uganda, who is now taking up. So over the years, we've been shadowed by our neighbors, and this has to change.
Yeah, and thank you so much, my panelists. That is Martin Keimno, a former athlete, and Elias Makori, managing editor sports at Nation Media Group. And from here at the Rift Valley Sports Club at County 032, Nakuru City, where again next week Nakuru will be receiving its charter officially to become one of the 4 cities in Kenya. And back to studio in Nairobi, where we are joined by our commentators, that is Francis Mutegi and former Olympic champion Wilfred Bungei.
Asante sana mwenzetu Steve Keter. We are really impressed with the organization and of course the insights that we've gotten from the panel there, led by Elias Makori, my senior editor in sports, and of course Martin Keino, the organizing committee of that event chairperson, and they've done a pretty good job. And in conclusion, as we are closing in, they were talking about Ugandans trying to catch up with us, and they're really giving us a run for our money. And actually, considering currently the half marathon fastest time is recorded by Jacob Kiplimo, who is Ugandan. I think he clocked 57:31. And you're beginning to think we need to start styling up a little bit more. We had taken a little bit of relaxation.
Well, Francis, I think something very important is, as you rightly said, first and foremost, these countries, for a very long time, Kenya has been a powerhouse in athletics. But I think, we have allowed so many people to come and compete here, to come and train here in Kenya, for example. They have learned from what is happening in our training camps, and that is why they have beaten up. Number 2, there's a lot of incentives, let's say, especially for the Ugandan athletes. Yes. If you look at the government, because if you had Elias, mentioning about the government coming in, I can tell you that Uganda has taken a major role as a government to make sure that they are investing in these athletes.
Yes.
Every athlete is inspired right now in Uganda to run, because they know very well that if I compete, I'm going to get a house, I'm going to get a car, I'll get some money until retirement. So this makes a huge contribution in terms of an incentive and motivation, for these athletes.
Yes.
And that is why I think as a country, we have got to wake up. Just as Elias said, I don't understand sometimes, as he mentioned, county governments, you find that sports ministry, it's always the lean ministry. They put little money. If you find also in this country, sports ministry always is very little. And I think just maybe to end, I would only mention 3 things that that we have taken home from here in terms of sponsorship, in terms of local races, and in terms of young athletes competing in marathons.
Wonderful. Wilfred Bungei, former 800 meters Olympic champion, and of course he's a huge motivator to many athletes of this caliber, and for that reason, having retired from athletics, is now a superstar when it comes to analyzing athletics, and of course he's given us quite some input about what it takes to organize such an event, what it means for the athletes, and of course what it requires one to be able to achieve the victory. Like we have seen today, Catherine Renine has just won the ladies race, and as well in the the gentlemen's race, we had a victory taken by Daniel Simiu Ebenyo. He's from Baragoi in Samburu County. This man lost his father very early, and this is to cattle rustling. So he's a great inspiration to the people down there where cattle rustling is a major problem. The first edition of the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon, as you've heard from Keter, they'll be getting their charter officially next week. and that is to make it the 4th city in the country after Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and of course Nakuru also Eldoret also very close to also getting that pronouncement from the president. From us here, we believe you've enjoyed our coverage of the first edition of the Stanbic Nakuru City Marathon, and we have made it possible for you, and we hope this Sunday will be ending well as well for the rest of the day. From us, it's bye-bye, and thank you for being with us. NTV, we thank all of you for finding time and choosing us to be part of this day's morning. Bye-bye.
Wakenya wenzangu, kupata wimbo wa kwamba wachana nao waliokuumiza, utabonyeza *812 *801 hash. Kumbuka, sikiza na Nation, supporting local talent.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.